Okay, let's talk about chamfers and fillets in this video. Well, actually, let's start with fillets. Okay, a fillet is basically a radius at the corner of a block type object, or even maybe at the end of a line. And again, you can get a little tutorial here if you hover over the fillet tool. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here so you can see where I'm at. So fillet is the default for this tool right here, and then of course you can click on the drop down arrow and get a chamfer and a blend curves, but we're just going to talk about fillets and chamfers, starting with fillets. So we'll click on a fillet, and the default radius for the fillet is actually 90 degrees, which means there really is no radius to it. And that's why I use the fillet tool to join corners and things, to clean up corners on drawings and things like that. However, it is also designed to create your curves and things like that on corners. Okay, so what we do with the fillet tool, there's several ways to use this. At first here, you can see that it says select first object or. The or meaning you can go down into the dynamic input at the bottom, and you can see that you can, well, won't worry about undo, but primarily radius. Radius is primarily what you're going to be concerned with. You're really not too much going to be concerned with these others. You can play with those to find out what they do and how they might help your drawing style. But primarily what we're concerned with is radius. So before we start clicking on anything, we want to click on the letter R and then enter button. And of course, currently mine is set at 4 unit radius because I was playing with it earlier. Typically it will come set at a 0. So if you ever want to get it back to where you started from, just enter 0 in here, make it a 0 radius. But currently right now it's 4. Let's say if I want to change that to say like a 2 unit radius, not 20, 2. Okay, a 2 unit radius. And then it says select first object. It goes back to that same thing, select first object or. So first object, so whichever one of these lines you want to click first, it really shouldn't make a difference. Click here and then click here, and now I have a radius on that corner. It's a 2 unit radius. And if I want to put the same radius on the other corner over here, I can simply click on the enter button, and it goes back to the radius mode. And again, I can click and then click and get a 2 unit radius. Okay, now I can also change the dimension of that radius. Let's say I want to put a radius down here on this corner. I can actually go ahead and click on one line, or actually, I'm sorry, I have to hit the enter button to get it to go back into the radius mode, and then click on this line, and then let's say I thought it was going to give me a way to change the radius. Okay, well, I can type in R here also. Okay, R radius, and then specify the radius for this one. Let's say, I don't know, like a 3. Okay, so we have a 3 radius, and then we click here on that corner. So now we have a little bit larger radius on that corner. Same thing if I want to do the next corner. I just click on the enter button and go here and place that same radius over here. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's the radius tool is pretty simple. The chamfer tool can be a little bit more difficult. So let's back up and undo everything we did on that rectangle, and we'll use the chamfer tool. So we'll go up to the ribbon and the modify panel and change it to the chamfer tool. All right, now it first asks me to select first line or. Okay, the or meaning to go down to the bottom and find some other options. Okay, and some of those options are the two that you're primarily going to be concerned with is distance and angle. If you click on method, it's basically going to give you an option of using distance or angle. So I don't even know why they put that there. And you can play with the rest of them to see what they do, and you can kind of go from there. But distance and angle. So when I'm doing a chamfer, I'll kind of show you how it works, and then I'll kind of explain it as I put it on the page. Okay, so let's say we want to do our chamfer. We want to measure it by distance. So I'll type a D Okay, specify the first chamfer distance. That's what it says in the dynamic input. So I might specify something like 6. Okay, and specify second chamfer distance. I might specify 4. Okay, now I typed those in order. I typed 6 and then 4. So wherever I click is going to be the first line. It's going to receive the 6, and then the next line will receive the 4. So first line, let's say I choose this line, and then I choose the second line. Okay, what it did, all right, is we went and we cut back on this line 6 units. So this was the original corner right where my cursor is now. So we cut back on that one 6 units. That was the first number that we entered. And then we cut back on this line 3 units, I believe it was, and that was the second number we entered. Okay, so again, we can hit the enter tool to go back in the chamfer mode. It says select the first line, or I'm typically going to go or, so I can set up how I want this to be. And I'm going to click D. Okay, and let's say I want to do this one down here, 2, and then hit enter, 5. Okay, so 2 is the first number. The first line I click is going to receive that number 2. Okay, so 2 on this one and 5 on that one. Okay, now as you can see again, we cut back 2 units on this line going this way, and then we cut back however many was it, 5 units on this line going back left and right. Okay, so it's kind of let's see, what would that be considered? Wouldn't be considered necessarily XY because it really depends on where you click first. But anyway, just keep that in mind. Wherever you click first is going to put in the first number that you placed in sequence. So I did 2, 5, so that chamfer is a 2, 5 with this first line receiving the 2, the second line receiving the 5. So we'll start with our first line being, let's say, 5. So that's where we're going to cut back on that line is 5 units. And then I'll accept what I've already got in there, 5, and then hit the enter button and then type in the angle. Let's say I want it to be 35 degrees. And then I hit enter. Okay, so now I select the first line. The first line that I select is going to receive that first entry of 2. So 2 and then the angle up here. All right, so now I have a 35 degree angle cutting back 2 units on one of these lines. Is that what I did? Is that what I entered? I don't remember. Okay, excuse me. There's another way of doing chamfer, and that is by angle. So I'll hit enter to activate the chamfer tool, or maybe not. There we go. And no, I must not. Okay, let me click on chamfer instead. There's no telling what I did there. All right, so in chamfer mode, looking again down the toolbar, you see that there is angle. So I'm going to type in A for angle, and of course, even though I'm doing an angle, I still have to start with a distance. So let's say I start with the distance of 5 units. So one line, the first line I click on is going to receive this 5 unit distance cut back. And then the chamfer angle, let's say I want to do 35 degrees. So I'll type in 35 and hit enter. All right, and again, I go and find where I want the chamfer to be at, and I click here to be my first line. So that's going to receive that 5 unit entry. And this line, when I click here, is going to receive that angle entry. Okay, and as you can see, it is cut back from the corner, 5 units, and then 35 degrees of angle. Okay, and it just cuts off whatever of this line, wherever it hits, wherever that 35 degree angle hits, it cuts that off. All right, so that is how you use the chamfer tool. I can't think of any other way to use it. There are other things you can do, but you can play around with some of those other options on your own. This is about as far as I go on the testing for this. So anyway, good luck on your test. Let's see. Say A? No, 5 units. That's what it was. Okay, I originally specified 5 units. I'm throwing myself way off there. Okay, so yeah, that was 5 units, cutting it back 5 units, and then angling it 35 degrees, and just wherever it lands on this top line is where we need to concern ourselves. Okay, so that's the two ways that you can use the chamfer tool. There's other things you can do with chamfer, but that's about as far as we need to go for beginner and for taking the user certification test. You can play around with some of the other chamfering tools just to kind of get an idea of what they do, doing that on your own. Anyway, thank you much, and I wish you good luck on the test.